Exactly.
Next week.
Yes.
Next week.
And that's the part that we don't include because...
Lost the fucking plot.
Hey guys, welcome back to On Our Terms, hosted by moi, Ismatou Bah, the big sis that fucks up so
You don't have to.
As usual, let's set some ground rules. This is not a safe space. It's a brave space. So let's be brave. And with that being said, Mummy, we're starting a podcast.
Can we drink the champagne now?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Well, today, guys, I have a very special guest. My team. Guys, say hi to my amazing team.
Hi, baby.
We're breaking the fourth wall today to let you guys in on how we got here. Our experiences navigating our careers in our 20s, our relationships with creativity, and what brought us to this point right here, right now, building this podcast. Let's get into it. But before we do that, let me introduce you guys to each person here. Because, you know, we all tight and really cuddly up in this couch. Obviously, you met Cahleb. Y'all know Cahleb. Say hi to Cahleb, everybody.
Hey, y'all. I'm on this
Hi,
podcast like 9 times. We're back.
Cahleb is one half of our production duo. He is a music aficionado and a tastemaker, originally from Spring Valley, New York. Cahleb graduated from Harvard.
I'm just Spring Valley.
Guys, where's Spring Valley?
If you don't know, it's a failure of the school system, not Spring Valley.
He graduated from Harvard with a degree in history and lit and has gained experience across the music industry from stints in radio PR at Odyssey and on the live music booking team at Paradigm to working for Emmy award-winning film composer Nicholas Britell. And most recently working in artists and music marketing at Spotify, where he led campaigns for artists like Victoria Monet, Doja Cat, Doechii, Coco Jones, and more. He runs CD Radio, a music and culture platform where he discusses music and pop culture and builds playlists. Samantha is the other half of our production duo. Everybody say hi to Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Yeah,
Hi, Sam.
She is a Queens native, Queens girl. Shout out to the Queens girls. After graduating Tufts University with a bachelor's in sociology and a concentration in social inequity and social change and a minor in political science and entrepreneurship. Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
She returned to New York for a quick PR agency stint, working for consumer tech clients like Google and YouTube. She swiftly pivoted to HBO, where she did global marketing operations, which paved her way to production, allowing her to now ideate and create dynamic digital content and live experiences across podcasts, television, sports, music, and fashion. She's the creative eye behind Young Black Brooklyn.
YBB.
Her love letter to her community. Such a good page. Go follow. And last but not least, our beautiful, wonderful Esther.
Hi, baby.
Say hi to Esther, everybody.
Hi,
Hi,
Esther.
Esther.
Esther is our brand and PR maven. She graduated with a degree from Boston University before hopping into the PR space, where she quickly gained a variety of experiences, from multiple agencies to in-house at Tinder's PR team to freelancing for brands like Burberry, Snapchat, and yours truly, On Our Terms. She's clearly done it all. So let's dive into it. So clearly, you are all motivated in your careers and have accomplished a lot in a short time. Let's start with everyone's origin story. What was the original career motivation for y'all?
Ooh, that's interesting. I think for me, I grew up as an only child, y'all. So I had to make my own fun, make my own entertainment, because my Caribbean parents were just like, you got to figure it out, child, because they're older too. So essentially, I think I kind of, from a very early age, fell in love with reading. And I used to read a lot of like fantasy books, the Harry Potters, the Percy Jacksons, all of that, right? And constantly was like in my own world. So between that and like watching TV, movies, reading 17 magazine and Glamour and Cosmo and being entrenched in internet culture as I like grew up, especially like the Tumblrs, the Facebooks, all of it, I was there for that, right? I think that kind of solidified to me that I was creative, and my parents did put me in some things, y'all. So I did do art classes. I wrote poetry. I'm also a Pisces, so I think that was just like off rip gonna be a thing, you know? And I also had a failed acting career. I used to be acting in the church plays. You know, used to get casted.
Were we not all acting in the church plays?
Yes, but I was always the lead, guys. I was always the lead. Anytime I auditioned, I got it. And so, you know, that convinced me that I was going to be a rich and famous actress. I literally had this whole dream. I was going to move to California, go to UCLA, like be in all of these like movies and TV shows, and literally have a penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park with a whole room for my Academy Awards, right? And I literally made myself a resume at the prime age of 8. Yeah.
I'm fascinated. Let me hear about this resume.
Yeah, it's because I was a very precocious child, as you can tell. And I had a whole resume that detailed all of my church plays accomplishments, you know, and I literally convinced my parents to send it to Disney Channel, or so I thought.
They never sent it?
They never sent it. And they didn't tell me for weeks. And I literally was like, I could have been her ticket out the hood.
That's sabotage.
I could have done that.
And also, I feel like with Into the Dark and everything we're seeing with Disney.
Yeah, you know, in retrospect,
You
it was
did dodge a
probably for the
bullet.
best. It was probably for the best.
Yeah.
But
I was looking at the bag, though.
exactly. I
She
was
saw
bag
like,
of the
that. At
bag.
8, she
Yes.
saw that bag.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you
I
were
saw the
willing to make
lights,
that
camera,
sacrifice.
action, and I was there. I was ready for it. So after that, y'all, like I kind of knew that I wanted to do something creative. At one point, it was going to be like working on a magazine, being an editor, like living my Carrie Diaries life.
It's really good that you had the like early, like you could identify it early that you wanted to do something creative, because like that was not in my, like, I don't know.
What were you thinking?
I feel like when I was young, being creative was like squashed at every like turn. Like, I feel like I had to like really fight and prove that playing the violin was like important. And then when I did it,
It can help you do math.
yeah, exactly. But then it's like, I don't really feel like I don't know. Like, I feel like singing and dancing was so unserious to me. Like, I was like, why would I, like, they're not going to take me serious. Like,
And your voice is so pretty.
It is.
but it's so sad.
You could have been Beyonce.
I could have been, guys. I could have been a singer, but you know, R.I.P. R.I. fucking P. What about you, Esther?
I had no career motivations. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. Like, I'm not even gonna sit here and lie to
That's
everybody.
so
I'm
real.
so
That's
fucking
so
sorry.
real.
Thank you.
I'm not. I was the youngest child, and say what you want about younger children. Okay, I'll take the heat for this one because of that, I was taken care of by my siblings, by my parents, and I very much was not given the burden wasn't put on me to decide what I want to do when I'm 12 and figure it out now and da-da-da-da-da. And so I never really did things that I didn't want to do. Like, I did dance because I wanted to do it. I sang in the church choir because I liked to sing and it was fun. I liked school. I was a nerd, bad. I was in them books, bad. I was in that Percy
I
Jackson.
was gonna ask,
We
like,
love
how did they
literacy.
I did not
convince
read.
the youngest to do this program that was like
They didn't.
so
Nobody
hard?
convinced
You
me.
wanted to-
Oh my gosh, I have a story
That's
actually.
sick.
I have a story. So we all do know each other from prep. I'm so sorry to acknowledge that, but we do. And I only did prep because it was on a whim. I thought it was like a summer program, like other summer programs. And my parents always did like encourage academics, encourage education. That was all I was given. All I was given was religion and academics. And I had to fend for myself after that. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. Like, I've done enough summer programs, whatever. It was only until like into the school year that I realized this is about something. Like, this is taking me somewhere. And I think that it's just like a personality trait, honestly. I've always been the kind of person to just like dedicate to something just because I don't like the thought of quitting. Like, I didn't want to be known as a quitter. It was more of like a reputation thing. Because if nobody had to know, then I was going to quit. But if my reputation was at stake, baby, no, I'm here. I'm stuck.
Like, your reputation where? Like, just within your family?
Well,
or like,
for prep, it was like within my
prep.
family and within prep.
Yeah.
Like, I was not going to be the girl that dropped out because I couldn't handle
Mm-hmm.
it. Like,
Yeah.
all of my friends during
Yeah.
first summer either dropped out or were kicked out. We'll get to that story.
Yeah.
But all of them left, and I was the only one standing. I lost my carpool. I was not about to join that group. Yeah, I did. Shout out. I know. No, actually.
I feel that though, Esther. I
Where
also
is
like
he?
didn't want to go to boarding school, but like
I
stayed
didn't
in it though because I
realize.
wanted to prove that I could do this thing. They rose the stakes for us on purpose.
They rose
Yeah.
the stakes on
because they
purpose.
knew that we're sick and that
It was
worked.
like life
It was
or
very
death.
Overachievers, you know?
psychological.
Yeah.
It was very psychological. But because of that, I never really had aspirations. I was vibing. But vibing got me here.
Period.
So, like, not too bad, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my tale.
What about you, Khaleb?
I feel like anyone who knows me knows like music has been. I never had any chance of doing anything else. Music. I've been enveloped in music. It's like in my blood. Everyone in my family is music. My grandparents were jazz pianists. My uncles on both sides used to play music. My aunt was in a girl group apparently. Like there's just someone that's done art kind of across everywhere.
That's beautiful.
And my dad specifically is a vocal coach and really successful musician. So grew up just like around music, around his students, around his classes. And also hearing stories of like all the terrible shit that he was put through. And, you know, he was in the music industry in the 70s. So it's funny, I'm like half Nepo baby in that, you know, it's a lot
claiming it?
easier
Wow.
to only half. I'm like
His dad was on
biracial.
Love and Hip Hop, y'all.
I actually forget about this and you always remind me.
He was training Kimbella.
He's, you know, I had this experience of life where it didn't seem out of reach to like, you know, just be working with musicians and be successful and be around people that have like made a name for themselves in music. And I totally acknowledge. And also like, I was around so many artists. Like it was not weird to conceive of being an artist. Like that was the job that was normal to me. And like my mom,
Like finance was weird to you?
like my mom worked corporate until I was 4. And that was the end of her corporate life. But like she had been working obviously her whole life corporate. So I like, remember her coming home from work the first 3 years of my life in like a fur coat and like her heels clacking. And I remember that being like, corporate, wow.
Sexy.
And then that
Yes,
was it. And then she was an event
queen.
planner and a freelancer. And my dad's a vocal coach. My dad goes to work at 7 p.m. and gets home at 4 a.m. And he's like 75. Like nothing is normal in my house. You know, we live this very creative life. My tattoo I have is about the piano in my mother's home that I grew up playing. So I think music was kind of always what I loved. But I think as the person in my family that I think I was the youngest, but kind of did have, I think, that pressure of like, I need to be practical and like, I need to make a bunch of money. So I really tried. I really tried to do everything else. I was trying so hard. I was like, I'm into this, I'm into that. But, you know, all roads like led back to, I think, working in music and like working in a creative field. And also was always a singer, always creating as well. And played saxophone for 10 years and sang in college and high school. And so, yeah.
It's so crazy because we've all had different paths to how we got here. Like in prep, I just feel like we had so many people directing us in different places. Like I feel like a lot of people's agendas were put on us and we kind of like mistook it as like, oh, this is my agenda, this is what I want to
Yeah.
do. And so, and you know, that's done through like I feel like a multitude of things. Like whether it was like the internships that we were put in or like
JP Morgan.
or like the fucking I'm trying to just think like I don't know, just if you think about our parents speaking into us like, you know,
culturally.
And also that like, that these people don't realize like these creative jobs don't have programs for freshmen that pay you $20K
They're
a
not
summer
organized.
to get you and you have a full-time offer.
There's no infrastructure
By the time you're 19, but Goldman Sachs does, then they're
Yeah.
going after low-income, high-achieving kids because
Right.
Right.
like we need money.
Why did I enter that Deutsche Bank?
Like,
No,
I
literally
had no
same.
business.
No business.
interning
Why was our
at
first
Deutsche
job at
Bank.
JP
Why was our
Morgan
fir- and, like-
Chase at like 17?
yeah.
Like,
working in like some crazy, insane, like some department you probably don't even remember.
Yeah.
It's called People Agenda, and to this day, I probably can't put this in here,
Actually,
guys.
remember.
Guys, what does that fucking
Oh my
mean?
gosh.
What does that mean? You
It's
can
like
absolutely keep
it's
going.
like glorified HR. Like I don't know.
Mine was global compliance.
I mean, honestly, too, like it's obviously an immense privilege
Period.
to like have access to these things, but like at the end of the day, if you don't want, you can't. I feel like there's a generational
Like, I
thing
wish-
where like we saw people from this program at these jobs literally tell us like
They're
get
like,
out
"Don't
now
come
because
here.
of course it
Don't."
pays well. It's a privilege because it pays well, but then you'll be
Right.
stuck in something you hate forever, and that's not liberation. That's not freedom. Is
And
that really
privilege
class
was-
mobility? Like
that privilege
what?
was
That's
put on our backs. Like I
Yeah.
felt like I never really had people telling me where I needed to be. Like my parents never said you have to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer. But I was that privilege was reinforced. Like, this is
For
an
sure.
opportunity that was
Yeah.
reinforced.
Yeah.
And we took it so seriously.
And then you realize, do I actually value this?
I just genuinely wish I had.
You got like real life work
I
experience.
didn't. Yeah, like I just got other types of experience because I feel like working. I don't know, just being given these opportunities, kind of just like.
It definitely warps things a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, it skews your
it warped my
perspective.
perspective. I think it like made me feel like this was the only direction I could go. These are the only industries I could consider. And like I feel like it sounds very obviously I'm very cognizant that this sounds very spoiled to be like, I can't believe I had an internship at JP Morgan when I was 17.
Right.
or
I've
whatever.
never had a retail job
Whatever.
or food or whatever. Like,
I'm just saying from our perspective, just speaking from what we've like it just would have been nice to realize how big our options were.
Yeah.
And
I feel like also like it didn't change how much work we have to do now. And I feel like that really is the problem. And they lied and said it would. But like in reality, we were doing all of that just so that we could be at zero with everyone else, right?
Yeah.
And I thought maybe like, oh, if I had worked at all these Fortune 500 companies by the time I was 21, that like maybe that would, but it only is to get you at the same
actually
place.
very much
And that I
agree
think
with
is
that. I
frustrating.
think that-
And it was almost sold a little differently to us.
I agree with
And
that.
you're using up your reserve energy that you don't have, and you're burning yourself out because you think, oh, it'll pay off later. No, you still have to work.
And you know what the crazy part
Still have to
is?
prove
You know what the
yourself.
crazy part is? Is like I feel like the white kids that we went to school with who weren't shackled to these internships, like, and they were able to be like a
weren't doing
lifeguard at their
shit.
country club
Right,
or
they were
whatever the fuck.
cruising.
They had the time to think about creating a fucking film in high school.
Let's talk about the film.
Like, I went to high school with a group of kids who literally their parents funded them creating like a fucking film. Like, now I'm not talking no like.
It went to
little
film
itty bitty-
festivals.
Yes, it went to film festivals. They had like
People get to see
expensive gear, like expensive cameras, like things that are like you used to shoot in Hollywood. They had like their own little production company. Like they had trailers. They had
Plural.
premieres.
Plural.
Like it was, and then I was like, wow, like I wish I had the space in my mind
Yeah.
Yeah.
to sit and like create a fucking film. Like I wish if I had if I had the time to explore and I feel like my interests were truly nurtured by my environment and I wasn't just pushed into this like machine to like make money and like be a part of capitalism. I feel like I would have started my podcast in high school.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, like I feel like
Yeah.
I've always been meant to yap. Like this was always going to be my destiny, but I just feel like this wasn't nurtured.
Yeah.
Like it just was never nurtured.
I very much agree with that. I think that I internalized a lot of the messaging that I received at that time and then went through high school trying to embody it as much as possible. High school was a time of having a mask on, you know, from the assimilation to the keeping up with academics to trying to maybe get yourself somewhere, but within a specific context. High school was definitely not like authentic. And I want to know if you guys agree with this. I feel like for me, that point was definitely in college when I realized, okay, there's a lot that I need to heal from, and there's a lot that I need to dive into internally to assess. Like I took so much time in college to assess.
I feel like I felt that from you too, Esther.
I'm sure.
I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like because I don't think I had the same exact experience.
Right.
I relate to it, but I don't know exactly how to describe it. But I feel like I know it was different because I feel very aware of that
Watched
process
it.
that you
Yeah.
had.
You
Yeah.
watched it.
Yeah.
We all had different
You were quiet.
points where
I feel like you were
Literally just,
quiet.
Yeah.
in college.
Yeah, I feel like you were
I was
quiet.
cooking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
mindful.
I was
You're
very
very
mindful.
yes.
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. It definitely my creativity wasn't really nurtured until I took time out of my
Yeah.
day to nurture it. So I had to do that for myself.
And I think like the reason why I feel like what you're saying is so real is because I like can never front like when my sister was 15, she was really into writing poetry. So my mom was like, okay, so let's make a book. And we had a book signing. She made a poetry book
Period.
with her photography on it, and they named the art Poetry.
One thing about y'all made
And
opportunities.
My mother had a book signing and printed copies of this book. Like
see, that's so
That's
cool.
elite.
I like art was my
Yeah.
entire household was overflowing art. Like my sister has been an actress since she was a kid, and the school buses would take us to high school after him, and I would wait with her until her practice was over, and then my mom would pick us up. So I watched all her rehearsals for Dreamgirls and Footloose and Oliver, and like then I did theater, and at the same time, you know, I was like in all district band and doing all these things, but still, I think it literally took until like after the final stop of trying to work at jobs that paid well I was working in education philanthropy and realizing that this was not very philanthropic.
Right.
It literally took until that final stop to be like, oh, I guess this thing that I spent literally all of my time doing, I should do. And that's the difference, I guess, between being, this is why I say I'm a half. This is the difference between being a full Nepo baby and a biracial Nepo baby. Because I didn't see anybody.
I'm screaming.
I wish that you guys could see the face that our videographer just made. But like, I didn't see anybody have a life that seemed that like comfortable off of art, you know?
I don't know.
Well, more just that like other people that had successful parents, you know?
Right. No, that's a given.
And I saw people struggle through art, so I didn't want that struggle. Like so in my head I was like, okay, but you still have to come up with a practical career.
Yeah, no,
and it took a while for that to sink in.
I feel like for me, like all the creativity that was like brewing as a child was immediately dampened when I started prep because my mother, I love her dearly, but she did give me the worst advice possible and said, take this as a summer enrichment program.
Same, bro.
It was not. It was far from it. And the grind and just like the mental and emotional energy it took to exert myself to do well in that program and also to almost like prove everyone wrong. Because I came in a week late to first summer and there were multiple advisors and teachers that were just like, she's not going to make it. She's not going to make it past first summer. And I was like, just watch. Let me cook.
I just have to say, Sam came into my section the first day and we had a quiz. It was a vocab quiz and our teacher was like, oh, just take it if you want. If your score is good, it can count. If not, like it won't because you just got here. And this girl literally got them all right. She was like, I read.
Literacy is important. But anyway, so I think after that, like, I was just kind of clipped for me, and I tried so hard going into high school to revisit the theater, the acting, the love of it all, whatever. Even had this whole scheme where I was like, I'm going to do tech first, I'm going to get to know the people who make the decisions, and then I'm going to audition for the spring play, and then I'm going to be the lead and this and that, and just be, you know, strategy queen of theater.
Strategy queen,
yeah.
Honestly.
Did that happen? No, they cast me as the dog, and... the Indian chief in Peter Pan when I did actually audition. You know, as you can imagine, my school may or may not have been a little bit racist, but...
I digress. We digress. So you were basically cooking in college. And, like, I feel like you had a lot of introspection. It's actually funny because... I feel like I was mindlessly moving through college. Like I was definitely burnt out in college, but like I was just doing. I was still doing what I needed to do and doing the bare minimum to do good and move ahead. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And so
rather than like innovate and iterate and freestyle it, like,
right.
We had enough to do what we had to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I thought I was doing the most, but I was at capacity. I don't think I really truly started like exploring like creativity until the pandemic, because that's when I first was like, oh, I want to start a podcast. But then my dumbass was like, it's going to be a business podcast. So I still wasn't freed. I was still shackled. I was
capital focused.
I was still in shackles.
No, but you were trying. The impulse was there.
It was there.
You were getting there. You were working towards it.
And it was still called On Our Terms.
Exactly.
We were so close.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so that's when I started being like, oh, okay, like and the thing is, I didn't even consider a podcast creativity. I was like, I'm just talking about things and increasing exposure, and like this is going to be a networking tool for me, so like for business. Like this is not really the main thing for me. The podcast is a side mission. And then obviously I took some time, and it was really watching you guys work on Lemons. Is what was like.
Wait, can I interrupt you before we go to Lemons?
Yeah.
Because Lemons is a moment. But I actually really feel what you're saying. Like, I told y'all, I do PR right now. And the reason why I ended up doing PR is because of my father. He doesn't know this, but it's definitely because of my father. Right, I know, looking back. my household was I grew up in a very strict religious home. My father is a reverend, and that was the vibe, you know what I mean? And we didn't have cable. So I didn't have MTV. I couldn't sneak and watch. No, we didn't have cable. So it really was a learning of culture once I
Wait, how'd you
exited my
find your
home.
culture? You're the most cultured.
Yeah,
cultured
you're so
girl.
cultured. How
I
do you
worked
actually?
at this, like dead ass.
Wow,
like
it's a
I
craft.
I had zero
It's a
access
craft.
really to
That's
like
crazy.
what was going on outside besides school.
So
But
you
like,
weren't looking at like old Jet magazine
No,
covers and
we
shit. Because
didn't
that's your
have-
whole vibe.
I have
like,
none of
wow,
that.
You ate that.
I had
Yeah.
none of
I
that.
thought you were like
truly.
truly
you give like magazine
raised.
cutouts when you were 7. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
I
amazing,
wanted
sure.
to be that, but it wasn't until I went to boarding school, and from then
Oh,
I
that's cool.
binged. They gave us a little iPad, and I worked that iPad.
Wow.
And that's really the
Did you
origin.
catch up on old shows and shit?
I
Like,
caught up on everything. Everything. The only thing that I like really, really was raised on, I watched Girlfriends.
okay.
Girlfriends.
Did you watch Moesha too?
No.
Wow.
No.
That's crazy.
I watched
Also,
Girlfriends.
were you confused when we were calling you Brandy?
Well, not,
Well, no,
oh, by
because I
then
watched
you
Brandy
knew.
Cinderella. I had that on tape,
That
so I
one,
was
everyone
very
was
familiar.
allowed. Everyone, because my
Everybody.
dad also religious. There was so many things I couldn't watch, but that one.
But Brandy Cinderella,
I thought that was the original.
she made it into the home.
I thought that the Disney fairy tale was Brandy.
Brandy is
And it's
Cinderella.
Adrian.
Like,
It's
was,
charming.
is,
It is
always
original.
will be. Shout out
and Whoopi
Brandy.
Goldberg
Right.
and Whitney Houston.
And
That's
Whitney
the cast.
Houston, like that was my cultural knowledge. Is that and freaking Girlfriends. And it wasn't until like later that I learned.
Gotcha.
But one thing I will say about my father, despite he was considered strict by everyone, like in our church, whatever, he was definitely a disciplinarian. But he always spoke. He always would have a conversation and he would indulge me in conversation. And I'm the kind of person, I'm a little chatty. And I love to dig deep in convo. Like I'm going to dig into whatever the topic is. And I realized that going through high school, going into college, trying to figure out what do I want to do, I had no idea. But because I had that foundation from my dad, I knew I could talk. I knew I wanted to talk. And that's how I got to comms, and that's how I got to PR, and that's how I got here. And it's definitely broadened since then. That's definitely not my cap. But surprisingly enough, that was the seed that really
And
taught me about
strategy is the
myself.
same thing. Like,
And strategy is the
because people don't
same
even know what
thing.
they need to know. You need to ask
Exactly.
questions and dig deep to
Exactly,
get
which
to
is
that.
exactly what we did when we sat on a different couch
Yeah.
and strategized on our terms.
Yeah.
Yeah, building
We'll
that
get there.
multiverse.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the origins.
Yeah, and I feel like, and going back to y'all about lemons, I feel like watching you guys build lemons and then also comparing it to my day job and being like, I actually feel like I don't do anything every day, but it's like you guys are actually like creating music, like you guys are building an artist, building her fan base, like brick by brick. And like, it was like cool to see the process of you guys doing that. And I was like, oh, I want to create something like this. Like I want like to use my community and like build something bigger than us. I feel like we do it all the time.
And add to culture a little bit.
Exactly.
Instead of find myself in it and find where to plug in.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
make something from scratch. There's something like crazy out of body empowering about the fact that you can like shit out something. Like you can sit down, start talking, and then it's real. Like that's it's kind of fab. Like
very crazy.
It's like it's wild.
The
Like,
ideation of creation goes crazy.
it takes a while to learn how to do that though. So it's, and it's you know.
And it's just like, I don't know, the manual process of it all too.
I agree. I didn't really understand that was what like being an adult and having a job was. I didn't realize that it was so project based and that you really could have an idea and then make it happen and then it exists and then get something from it and then go from there.
And when you don't work at a company, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's no red tape.
That was very formative for me. I agree. I watched you guys with lemons and it definitely changed my perspective on like the opportunities that were available. And
Which
that
is
you could
so
create for
funny
yourself.
because I feel like I was watching Cahleb doing that before and I was like, hey.
Yeah, you literally asked me.
I literally was like, hey, so like I see that you did the shoot and I'm really interested. You need a
And I
a
was
PA,
like,
an
yes,
assistant,
please, I
like
need everything. Come,
anything.
please.
I literally will like feed you. I would literally put the food on the fork in your mouth. Like, let me know what I need to do and I'll be there.
And that's like the beginning of us being the best production duo ever.
Exactly,
Like, I love working with you, Sam.
I love you
And
too.
for reference, Lemons is our friend who's an artist. She's sharing her music, Lemons with 2 M's. But that's another thing. Like, I feel like sometimes people see things happening and they're like, oh, like, I want to do that. Or
Right.
why did they get picked and not me? And it's like, I don't know if people realize, like, I have a lot of friends and they're all interesting and creative and smart and brilliant. But like, I'm not gonna, like, Sam's the one that asked to help. So I was like, please, I'm not, like, you know, I don't know who wants to do things. So when you have to put that intentionality in to be like, I want to, and our friend Logan did the same thing and was like, I really want to get more experience in this realm and, like, want to explore this.
It really only takes one, though, to kind of spark that in other people. We needed that. We needed you for that. Shout out to you for that.
I think it's great that, like, I don't know, watching you guys, like, make that experience for yourself, like, I feel like it connected me back to what I was saying earlier. Like, I was like, oh, these white kids had the space to, like, make this movie and be creative and honestly tell a really uninteresting story. And
I thought you were going to say good for a second. I was like, it was good.
No,
that
it
makes
was
more sense.
And, like, it was literally just because, like, I mean, for their age, it was still impressive, don't get me wrong, but, like, the story is basic. And I was like, if we don't necessarily have as much capital and resources as them, but, like, we have the drive and, like, this, you know what I mean? This, it's limitless. And so for me, watching you guys build up Lemons, I was like, and I feel like for years too, we hear, don't just network up, network across.
And also
network
in the era of Issa Rae, like that's our era of propaganda.
I
love that propaganda.
That this is our era.
That's what we came up in.
Yeah.
And that's not what other people came up in.
No,
We
not
came
at
up
all.
with don't trust anyone.
And with
move
the
in
internet as well.
silence. You know? Yeah.
Exactly.
I think also, like, because I feel like we're about to get into the podcast a little bit, but before, like, I feel like something that I'm realizing too is, like, because I'm like, I've low-key been doing this stuff for a very long time. And, like, I was Aladdin in 6th grade. Like, I was doing theater from 5th on. I was always in plays. I was always in a cappella and singing
solo
whatever.
at commencement.
Yeah, I was always singing. And, like, the first time I sang in front of people was in 1st grade. During dismissal, you could sing at the microphone, and there was a delay. So they were having, like, a little town show. And I sang I Just Can't Wait to Be King from The Lion King. Which I had never seen that movie. I wasn't allowed to watch movies, but we were doing a Disney show in school at the time, and I was assigned The Little Mermaid, but I was like, I like that song, it's groovy, because obviously it's the nigga one. But I sang that, and
I didn't want to say it, but
and it was like, and it went well, and I was like, and then I realized, like, you know, everyone else around me is singing, we all sing. And then in high school, this is my point is that I feel like I long cultivated or believed in myself, I guess, as this person, but I wasn't in places that believed in me as this person. Like, that's kind of like the stunt of it all. Like, in high school, I wanted to make a column of, like, music reviews. I pitched it, like, so many times, but no one at my high school saw the vision because they all hated me. And it just wasn't a space that was going to actually give that to me. I produced my first, like, very complicated multi-channel music show in high school my senior year. And shout out SMS and Simi and everyone who made that one. Still going. Also, we made that at Hodges, and it's still been going on now. And I produced, like, a 10-song show with singers and an instrumentalist, and we composed all of it and did dancers. And I just wasn't actually getting that validation, though, despite the fact I was doing it. And I feel like now being in spaces where we're being validated and pushed, and also having resources, and also not trying to just survive, like, finally have this space to, like, luxuriate in our creativity. I feel like it's also now clicking for me too, even though I was doing it before, because we just weren't in the right places for that to be, like, properly cultivated.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely do feel like we all were fed the message that we have something in us. First of all, like, we all were told that we were smart. We all were, like, starting off with that as a base. But applying it to something so different, applying it to a sphere that they never were speaking about and was never really positioned in, like, a realistic way that you can make money off of, it took drive to do that. It took drive, and it was, like, individual drive, like, in each of us. Like, I think that we all had our origin stories of being like, oh, wait, I might want to bet on myself.
Yeah. At the end of the day, no one ever was going to hand that to you. Like, you have to choose. Even if you're used to this, you've seen it.
Even if you're this, you can choose to bet on yourself. And then when you have that, you have people who have that drive and who are choosing to bet on themselves, and you link up together, that creates something.
And it really does take, because I'm thinking about, I forgot about this, but, like, before me and Hannah started really working on Lemon stuff, my friend had a thesis in college that was, like, a gospel thesis. His name is Solomon Fox. He's incredibly talented. You should look up his music. He had a gospel thesis, and I was in the choir with a bunch of my friends, and it was just really, really, really good. And we had the performance in, like, October of his senior year. And it. And then when we graduated, I was like, hey, Gabe, like, we should put this out as like a live album. And he was like, I mean, we can. I don't really know. Do you want to do it? I was like, yeah. So like we sat and strategized this like release, and I learned so many things, and it didn't go anywhere. It's not even out anymore. But it was just kind of like the doing of it all.
It's
and
the idea and then the follow through to do.
And I was like,
Exactly.
I can, you can put an album out. Like you can do that if you want.
Crazy.
But it really is those baby steps, and that's what made me feel like, okay, now I can do this.
I think more people need to hear that. Like more people need to, more of us need to know that, because we are like in a very pivotal position generationally with culture, with technology, with the influences that we have at this point. And it's kind of our generation that is opening the way for this to be normalized for our communities.
Yeah.
I think that that's what we're doing with On Our Terms. That's what you're doing with On Our Terms.
And you'd be surprised at how quickly you don't always have to like be scrappy. Like how quickly opportunities come to you when you put things out. Like I'm looking at Citizen magazine right here that Lemons was in, and she put out some scratch like records on SoundCloud and is in this magazine with Kendrick like Lamar.
Yeah.
And like
Every
you know,
artist
we
has a
started this
moment.
podcast a few months ago, and we've already been able to kind of have opportunities come to us. Like I think people think everyone's doing it. It's oversaturated. How will I ever stand out? Not a lot of people are really doing it, you know? And when you actually put that effort and time in and just commit, that alone can just create a lot of opportunities. And
Also, just like deciding what you want for yourself, when you finally are able to do that, you're allowed to say no to things that don't align with that.
Yes.
Crazy.
Saying no.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You're allowed to
you
have
mean abundance mindset? That's terrifying.
Yeah, you're allowed to have opportunities come to you that may not align with what you actually want to do, and you get to say no to them if you don't want to do that.
Honestly, I really resonate with what all you guys are saying, because I think truly we've all kind of been instilled with like an audacity to, like, if it's not there, like, I'm gonna create it. If I need this experience to break into this industry and do that. Okay, well, I'm gonna create it. I'm gonna create this experience for me. I'm gonna start this because I can. And I think like being surrounded, and I feel like that's honestly, I don't want to touch too much on school, but like I feel like
we have to name it.
a lot of the soft skills that we do have naturally to, like, that's not really common. Like I feel, especially amongst Black people, like I think our generation has been good to kind of just like have the audacity to just do, I think, and like take a chance, take a risk.
And not accept people telling you like no, or like you're not good enough, or you shouldn't be here. Like
and not following
like,
process too.
I have to actually.
I was just gonna ask that. Do you guys think that like because we had our own almost like elevator that we fought really, really hard to get into and create, but now we kind of almost create that on our own in our own various ways to like escalate ourselves to where we want to be through non-traditional ways.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the people who came before us, like not the people who came before us, like the millennials, like if I think about like Issa Rae and them, like she started Awkward Black Girl, like on her, like it's very just like I feel like
I've been thinking about this with Brian Jordan Alvarez, whose show English Teacher just came out on FX, and like his web series was around the same time as Issa Rae's, and it was just they're like 10 years later now are like really on their like zoom, but they were doing the same things, but like
exactly, it's like you have to start somewhere. You have to put pen to paper somewhere, like whether it's your 3 friends sitting in your apartment and literally just like ideating, building out a multiverse, and like literally like the idea is changing 4 or 5 times, but you guys eventually get somewhere. You guys put yourself on a timeline to get somewhere. Like, it can get done. I think the craziest thing about this podcast is the fact that we actually fucking did it. Like,
I was going to say, do we want to start on the origins of On Our Terms?
There was one thing I wanted to add to that I just remembered. Is like, I feel like, you know, I don't know if you guys know, but I'm gay. And
you're gay?
Crazy.
Actually, do you know that the first person I ever told I was gay was Sam on the JP Morgan server?
No, it literally was. And I think
I was fully having an anxiety attack, and I was like, okay. Actually, I said, I think I like men.
Yeah.
I said.
Yeah, and I was like, okay.
And, well, you were like, why do you think that? And I told you about all the dick sucking that I was doing, and you were like, oh, you're gay. You were like, oh, you're gay. Like, you don't think, you know.
You don't think.
But I think that also, like, I had to go through such a journey of, like, realizing I actually don't want to hang out with those people. I don't want to go there. I don't want those projections on me. Like,
that's true.
I kind of had to relearn how to be a person myself.
It's because you already were put on a little bit of
people. Like, and just also certain people from college, certain spaces, like, I realized like I really wanted to find queer space, and that meant that it wasn't just hanging out with like various mutual friends of other Ivy League institutions. Like it meant like meeting people and going outside and like, you know, talking to someone about something other than their LinkedIn. Like it meant meeting people that are thinking about like different things, which isn't hard for us because we are not of that world. We just stepped into it, and it's a choice.
It is a choice.
I think that in creativity and arts, like a lot of my comfort and like assurance, I guess, and just being in my ability to do it also came with like my comfort and assurance and like who I am. And like as I started to feel more comfortable showing up as myself, it became much easier also to envision this like non-traditional creative path too. And I feel like those things are like inextricably linked for me.
Yeah, I feel like so many people always ask like, oh, you like do such cool creative things with your friends. You have such cool creative friends. Like, how do you get there and whatnot? And the answer is like, you go make them. You go put yourself in places that people are doing the things that you want to do, you know?
Also, like, if you ever doubt yourself, I just want to let you know that there are people out here who are slapping creative director on their Instagram bio.
Talk about it.
And
charging people money.
And charging people
for
money.
Poor services.
For poor services and no creative storytelling skills.
Clock it.
So you should do it too.
So you should do it too. Just fucking do it.
There's white people who are stylists.
Oh, heavy on
there
them.
are people, guys, there are people who have audacity. Like, you just need audacity because people are charging people prices for things that they cannot do.
And getting mad when you tell them, I don't want to pay you the money because you didn't do it. And it's inspiring.
No, it really, no, I will say
is.
it is, that is part of the inspiration for me. Seeing people who are not good at things charge people for things that they are not a professional for, and writing creative director in their Instagram bio. Like that.
Have the audacity of a white man.
That is crazy.
You can
And
be
sometimes they're not
anything you
white.
want to be.
That's the
Sometimes
crazy
they're
part.
not.
Like life
Fake
is full
it
of
till you make
possibilities.
it.
It's real. Fake it till you make it. It's
Look at
real.
Anna Delvey.
Yeah, you can literally just say you are the thing. That was also a key learning for
You
me.
have to be delusional.
Yeah, you can just say you are the thing,
Yeah.
and then eventually all the things that will kind of back that up will come to you.
Yeah.
You just need to trust that. But once you decide that you're going to be something, you're going to be it.
I
is
feel
an
like I
identity
didn't.
thing.
I feel like I didn't actually understand that until unemployment.
Yeah.
No, literally.
Like until many months of it, of realizing like, wait, actually anything's true. Like,
Nothing is real.
and like also realizing that the kind of just starting to listen to the way people describe their lives and being like, wait, you guys are storytelling here.
Yeah.
We're weaving a narrative together. Like, we're
You absolutely are.
because at the end of the day, as Black people, we can have every damn qualification.
Right.
And these wiggers will look
Right.
at us, or will look at our resumes like,
Right.
So fake it till you make it anyway, because they won't even respect it even if you did.
Exactly.
So, guys, let's get into how we started this podcast, because I do genuinely think it was so natural. And I love when people ask me about like why I started it and how I started it, because like you guys are a huge reason of why I started it, honestly, because I think you guys like low-key pushed me into creativity. I kind of like accidentally low-key fell into this because
We did creative pill you.
yeah,
We did.
yeah,
We
and
did.
it's like when you're surrounded by so many creative people, you can't. You have to.
It's true. And like Skylar's over there. Like we're all just
Right.
Everyone's just doing it. They're doing it.
Yeah.
And so it was last year, October, and I reached out to, it started in the Royal Hosts. It started in the group chat. It started in the group
Another
chat.
idea making it out the group chat.
No, literally.
Love that.
It started in the
Yeah.
group chat, and I was like, you know what, guys? I want to restart my podcast, like, for real. I put out, like, one episode and not another episode again. Like, I can do this. I just really need to, I was like, I really need to solidify myself in this space. And it was still, like, rooted in this business interest. And then I think we had went out or something, and I was like telling you about it, and then you were like, girl, you really want to talk about business? And I was just like, yeah. And you were like, okay. Later I was like, all right, guys, like, I want to like actually do this. Like, I want to have like an idea.
Let's put it on the calendar.
Yes,
I said,
and then-
she's serious.
and then I like hit up Cahleb, and I was like, honestly, Sam and Esther are doing this with me. Do you want to also join? Like, let's make this. Do you want to help out with this? And you were like, yeah, like, let's fucking do this. And
if you put it on the cow, as a freelancer who's busy, like I'm doing a lot of things, but if you put that meeting on the cow, then okay. It's all talk until then.
We might
but
need to preface this just a little bit with saying that I was unemployed at the time, freshly unemployed, dramatically unemployed,
same.
chaotically unemployed. You know what I mean? And fighting for my life a little bit. It was a rough summer. So I'm coming off of that rough summer, rough living experience. And I refused. One thing I refused was to have a resume gap. Because how dare I not be perfect, right? Like, how dare I take some time?
Right.
and be a normal person, of course.
Right. So immediately I was like, I must freelance and I must do it now so I can have something to say for
Right.
myself.
Right.
And when you brought that idea to me, I was like, ooh, okay, I like that. And what it was for me, it was on our terms. You gave me like a bit about what it was in general. You told me about the background and that you started it before, you had an episode or two and da-da-da-da. In my mind, I was like, okay, like true, the backstory. But I was like, okay, girl, because I know you and I know what shines from you. But what stuck with me was on our terms. We had the name. And I was like, oh, we could build a legacy.
But you know
off of
what's
that
funny?
name.
Do you remember that it took us a second though? Because when we were like new idea, we were like, okay, what should we call it? And we like
Oh,
We tried
sat there for a
to, yeah,
second.
we tried to
try to, like,
brainstorm
You're like,
different
wait.
names.
And you were like,
yes.
it's on our terms.
We did try
Yeah.
to reinvent something
Yeah.
or whatever. So you gathered us all in the first floor of your apartment building. We opened up a Google Doc, you know, as
a very
one does.
blank sheet.
And
A
that's
very
the other
blank
thing that the
sheet.
girls
This has
don't
come
get.
from a blank
You
sheet.
do have to make a deck.
You do have to make a deck.
And Kalela, the great Kalela, the cuntiest woman on the planet, said everything she's ever done started in a deck.
Yeah.
Period.
Like, I'm so sorry they might have ate that one.
Unfortunately, they did eat that.
They did eat that.
It doesn't
The
have to
docs
be
and
that, you know, the
decks
exact
do make
template.
this world run.
Right.
guys, they got us together. I had this cute little agenda, and Esther said, I think we need to put this in a memo format.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
That was the first thing I was like, we need a memo.
And you know what was cool about that? Like, I feel like we all had our different kind of like marketing. We were in the marketing org experience, and we were able to bring that. And that was really what was really cool about doing stuff with Lemons is that at that point I was now working at Spotify and like had a lot more like resources of like how to structure a brief, how to structure a pre-production call, how to like create a creative brief, how to run a brainstorming session and ideate.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, we
how to
made
make an
corporate work
agenda.
for us.
We
Yeah.
did. That's a very good point.
And those templates are still here.
Period.
I mean, to this day.
Yeah.
I actually lost everything, but when you get laid off, guys, download it immediately.
Save those
Because
docs.
they will
Swiftly.
lock you. They will repo that laptop.
Save those docs. Right. So I was unemployed. She was freshly unemployed.
Literally maybe like a week or two unemployed.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like,
We didn't know.
I
We
was,
didn't
Kicking for you
I
right
was-
here. We didn't know it.
I was taking plane to plane. LA this week, shoot here. Yeah, it was all going to come.
We didn't
to
know it just
a halt.
yet. But a
Yeah.
month or two.
And I was still working my job.
Thank
Shout
God.
out you.
Yeah.
Shout out funding.
Somebody needs to fund.
And so I gathered us all together. Memo was created.
Memo was created.
Deck was created.
And then we spent 8 months grinding.
Building. But we really took it back and we took it back to who you are. I feel like that was the
TBT to when you were
original.
going to have a co-host.
I asked Cahleb. Cahleb said, so sorry, girl.
And that's also what is so
No,
important, guys. Like,
baby.
I was like, sorry, girl, no. And it's not because I don't know it would fucking eat, obviously, but because I just, I had to prioritize in different ways. And it was like, I want to give my time to the project, but like, I can't put all myself into this because I should do that in other things. And that is okay. And like,
Yeah,
you
no.
should be able to say that to your friends, and your friends should also be able to understand that too.
Yeah,
And,
no.
like,
And it's like, I knew he was being honest with me when he said that. He was just like, I'm be dead ass with you. Like, I know what I can give, and like, I can't give co-host. And I was like, okay, period. And then I thought I was going
so
to
I'll just be on it for like half of it.
and be literally mentioned in almost every episode. And then I thought I was going to go with another co-host. And no, I think Esther really drove it home because she was just like, I think what makes the podcast special is you. Like, you interviewing X person is what makes it interesting. Like, you having these conversations, your perspective, your life is like what's interesting. And I was like at first like, nah, guys, like I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this. The African in me came out, and I was like, evil eye, like I don't want to talk about anything. I don't want to talk about my family.
Yeah, you want it to be so private, and I was like, real.
And I was just like,
But
I don't
What are
want
you
to
going
talk
to
about.
talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, so when I made them the list
Which
of
is
everything,
why the corporate idea was safe, because
Yeah, it was
Right.
safe.
I
You
can
don't
just
have to
talk about
share anything about yourself.
all of this.
It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
safe.
and so
Which is real.
I was like playing it safe, and so it really took like I want to say like a month.
Took a bit.
It took a month,
Took a bit.
and then I like bought into it, and then I honestly feel like it took 8 months for me to fully like buy
Settle
into
it.
it.
Yeah.
Buy into
I
it.
also
I
think
could
that
see
it's
that.
an ongoing process. Like a couple months ago when an episode came out about being gay in Fulani, like, you know, we joke like we have the armor, but like it's still crazy every time to see the things that people will say to you for like being unapologetically or creating space for others to be unapologetic on
Right.
the internet. Like it's still crazy. But like, and you're still, I feel like it's still a process of like being comfortable sharing things, knowing that you're opening yourself up to like
Yeah.
to that, like those eyes.
Yeah, and like also like making the decision like to be so much more public facing. Like that was like I think many times Esther sat me down and was like, you know, you will be public.
Certain
This is-
things about your life will get out.
and people will have perspectives and takes on it and
share
opinions, and they will have 2 cents to say about this, and you have to be okay with that. And I was like, okay. And it's like I think it's
Very.
easy. Like when we were building the podcast, I feel like you guys were slowly but surely also counseling me in a way. Like it's gonna be okay. Like you either have to do it or you don't do it at all.
The whole thing did feel a little bit like counseling, because even the whole concept started, it's grown since then, but it started with the idea of you figuring out what the fuck is going on with you.
Yeah.
Like that was the premise. It was like you're in your 20s, you were in your mid 20s solidly. You were doing so much for the people around you. You're the oldest child of immigrants. You have this trajectory where being perfect was instilled in you from such a young age.
Yeah.
We all had to kind of stop you and be like, okay, VC is real. Like I hear it, and yes, shout out like opportunities.
Right.
And I really
Venture
mess with the
capital,
idea.
like,
And it's
yes.
obviously still something that you're passionate about. It's
Yeah.
still something that's a part of the package. But I was like, honestly, this point that you're at right now, this is interesting.
And also
Like
that
parsing out the multiverse that we created out of that has stretched into this Mummy Eye series.
Yeah.
And that's going to continue on from there. That, I was like, that's the interesting part. That coupled with your personality.
and the fact that like at the end of the day, like I think it was really important for us to think about audience and think about and when people ask me what's the podcast about, I feel like the important part is that there are very few Fulani women that are able to do what you're doing at all, and who have any examples of it and have ever heard of anyone doing it, period.
Yeah.
And that like that in itself is also why every conversation we have has those stakes in it as well. And I think there's kind of multiple audiences I think of. But I feel like all of this is, again, the audacity to like be like, I have a perspective that's important. That's
Right,
crazy.
like,
That's so
It
scary.
is crazy to be like,
Right.
my life experience is important enough that I care about
I wanna
all of these
curate
people
this
hearing
space.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't think about
Yeah.
ourselves like that. But it's impacted so many people already, and it's going to continue too. Like,
You've been doing
and it's
things
impacted
on your
you.
terms, and you're inspiring others to do the same.
Period.
I feel like we're in a really interesting era where being like cunt is like slightly too accessible, or like, you know, the commercial version of it.
That's a hot
And
take.
everyone's supposed to be nonchalant and like edgy and like different when like whatever happened to being earnest and straightforward. And I feel like that has fed into this culture of nonchalance, this culture of sheepishness. And like that shit is just a front for you're not confident in yourself and you're insecure. And like we've
trap.
all been there. And like again,
That's why I
you have to
think New
put
York is
yourself out
dead.
there. You have to say, hey, can I have your help?
Yeah.
But that's scary because someone might say no, or
Right.
I don't think you're good enough for it, or
fear of
I don't
rejection
like
runs
your idea,
deep.
you know, or but that requires you being able to do that and then keep asking people. And I think that was part of the counseling, is that when you do arts, I feel like you get really used to that in a way. And like all the conversations that we were having last year remind me or earlier this year, they remind me of what me and Hannah kind of were talking about 2 years before, of like finally breaking out of that like I'm not doing this for X result. Like I need to just relish in the process and be okay with failure and be okay with not getting results immediately. Like that is, you really have to drill that in as the creative person also, like as the talent kind of thing. It's especially hard because you're so close to the art. But I think it all goes back to like being okay with putting yourself out there and like not being embarrassed to say I need this or I'm doing this or I'm starting this and I think it matters and I have 0 followers and I don't care and I'm gonna act like it's more important than it is until it is. If you remember that comment on YouTube that was like all of this for 40 followers on YouTube.
Yes.
How many followers do we have now? Like 2,000, you know?
Yeah.
And in that moment it's so easy to feel like I should hide and be sheepish, but like fuck that shit.
I saw this TikTok, especially around the time when we were like about to launch, and it was like, it's vulnerable to put yourself out there. It's vulnerable to like keep doing something without any like
Immediate
reward. And I kind of like had to like write a sticky and be like, okay, we could literally have 30 followers for a year and I have to be like okay with that and still be consistent.
Yeah.
Like I literally had to like write it down and look at it and be like, we are gonna make content for a year straight and like we're gonna reassess and like see where we are in a year, and that's how we're gonna like, I'm gonna reassess. I launched the podcast on my birthday and I did that really intentionally because I feel like every year around my birthday I am extremely like, I'm just in this like mood where I'm like reflecting and stuff, and so it just seemed like the perfect time to like launch something new and like enter this new chapter for myself. And so that has been honestly the hardest part about being a creative, is being like, but the thing is like we've gotten a ton of results. Like we've gotten a ton of results. Like,
and that's the other thing is like the part of it is that you just have to think about every piece of art you like and every artist you like. You're like, did they have this path that you think that you should have? Like, no. But they had all these milestone moments that you didn't know about though. You thought they were nobody, but we're having our moments now. But like SZA, for example, I just think about her and Victoria Monet and Issa Rae. Anyone who I admire as an artist, almost definitely did. There's not really any blowing up overnight unless you're like Ice Spice, and we all see how that went. Like otherwise, like you don't blow up overnight. You have to put in those building years, those thankless years, like. Even if there is validation happening.
And you want to, because do we want to be in that situation like Ice? It's amazing having a following. It's amazing
but they don't actually like you that much.
That comes, especially when you feel like you need it. But
no one grew with you.
Foundational work, you're not going to be
important.
prepared to handle anything, much less be in the mindset to pour into yourself enough to produce something that is of value to people. Like, I don't know. I care about substance. I feel like everyone here cares about substance.
And we're making choices, and we've been making choices since the start to not just do the thing that will pop the fastest or will get the most attention. Like,
and it's also like you want to make sure that you're doing the things, and when you get the things, you get to keep them. You know, you get to maintain.
Talk about it, Samantha Watson.
Maintenance is so important, and people sleep on it. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how fast you rise, how many followers or like hits, views, whatever it is that your metric is that you get overnight or so quickly, if you can't sustain them.
And I think y'all have definitely taught me the importance of building brick by brick and like building a community brick by brick, because when you do have those viral moments and you do get those haters, it doesn't matter because your core community is there because you've spent so much time and effort building the community that actually tunes in episode after episode, week after week. Not the haters.
And we saw it like this year with Brat with Charlie XCX and Hanashe with Nasty. Like you need to have your shooters locked in so that the virality is fleeting, but you always have your people.
It's interesting. We have so many examples of it when it comes to musicians and actors, because those are the spaces that are considered typically creative. 10 years ago, something like this wouldn't even be considered that in the same way. Like, or working in PR, it wouldn't be considered creativity in the way that a visual painter would be. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the expanding of the definition of creativity has allowed so many of us to tap into that thing that we feel inside, that thing that you felt inside, but didn't really label it that. And again, it's a privilege for our generation to be in this space. And I feel like it's important for us to pull back that curtain, which is what we're doing with this produced episode. Pulling back that curtain to widen that definition for the people to come. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
that's something that I think is a continuous need.
So let's talk about, so in terms of pulling back the curtain, let's talk about what it actually is like to build. Because it's literally crazy.
Guys,
Hectic. It's like getting on a roller coaster, as Sam said. Or getting on a string strapped to a train, just riding.
Like, since we literally... the thing is, though, when it was just the four of us, it was so controlled.
We were chilling. We were cruising.
It was controlled.
We were grinding.
Yeah, we were grinding. But we showed up when we
set our own parameters also, so we were never behind. Like, we just worked at our pace and did our thing.
And we figured it out, and it was.
And we set realistic goals.
Yes.
Started October, and you said April launch.
Yes, and I feel like we all worked at it. Like, everybody worked at the goal. We achieved it. We set goals for ourselves, and we achieved it. Once we started adding people to the mix, that's when shit hits the fan.
And that's the learning. Like, people really people will say they're designers, they're just in Canva. And I love Canva, but no, I don't ask anyone to pay me $1K to make things in Canva.
$3K. $3K for amateur work. I think the hardest part about starting a podcast is managing people.
Yeah.
And finding people that actually respect you.
Talk to us, Lisa.
Honestly,
yes, Gen Z boss.
As Gen Z boss, I will say the hardest part is managing people, because obviously I'm not like a naturally anal person. Actually, I'm anal about certain things. But I'm not. Okay, no,
I get it though, because you're also like so fucking chill as Matu. But
I don't like.
You also are particular though.
I'm particular. I'm the oldest daughter, so I'm very particular, and like I know what perfect looks like to me, and so it's like I'm gonna want to achieve that, but I'm gonna want to put in the things that I need to do. So I'm not stressed to achieve what I need to achieve. Not everybody has that system in place, and I think for me, it's managing people and getting them to see my vision and being like, "Hey guys, we need to execute this," and like also them having the fucking skills. Like, people will come and lie about their skill level, which I think is the craziest part about starting a venture. And people say, startup founders say it all the time about like, because like low-key, this has become a startup in a way.
We started something up.
Yeah, we started something up.
We did.
And managing people, expectations, feelings, low-key, like it's a lot. At the end of the day, it is a risk, I think, above all. And like, you have to lead by example in a way of kind of the space that you want, and like the experience that you need, and the quality of work that you want. And I hate to say it, but it's kind of just luck. I think
you've grown so
and
much.
I think you have to take some L's really as the learning. Like, I feel like our like amazing team like that we have now came through a couple. We had to go through a couple different things.
Trial and error,
and I think it's finding people that actually respect the shit you're doing.
Right.
A lot of the problem is people want to do things, but they low key think you're unserious.
Alignment.
You might tell someone this is the day I want to launch the podcast, and they didn't really think you were serious. That also I think is racial in some ways too. It's like I don't think people people think that like, Black people that were doing things for real. Like, I wonder if a bunch of white people showed up to some of these people and had decks and had a brief and had these things, if they would, it was like we were speaking different languages every now and then with a couple of the contractors we were working with, where it was like, what about this implied that like, we were going to be grateful for whatever you gave us. We're paying you for something. Like,
just
we want
because
what we asked
we've
for.
been chill and lax and everything in our approach to how we work doesn't mean that our work is chill and lax, Our attitudes might be, but like, we're not. We expect that shit to get done.
I think that's also the tea, is that a lot of people don't believe you can, like, we have high standards. What I believe really fiercely, I think we enact that, is like, in order to do good work and achieve really good things, like, it does not have to be miserable. I think a lot of people do not believe that. I think they actually think misery equals we're doing hard work. And like that the lack of misery equals we're not. And it's like, no, like I truly, that is, again, it's abundance mindset. Like that is my dying wish. I'm like, I will never let anyone tell me that you can't have fun.
Right.
And you also have to lock in sometimes, yes, but like, you don't have to be miserable.
Yeah.
You don't have to be miserable or pretend like it's not, right? We also can all be miserable together for a second because we have to and do that together.
But that comes with training.
Well, the thing is, like, I also want to say, like, I don't think, like, at any point, I have never felt, especially in building this podcast, like, miserable per se, because, like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's the hardest part about the podcast was literally managing all of the ups and downs and like all these extraneous factors that we couldn't control.
Right.
Like that was what was making us like.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like has like burnt us out. You know what I mean? Like
Me
I
and
feel
Sam
like
have been through so
Shout out production.
The way Cahleb
Yeah,
and
shout
I
out
were like, woke up every single day in fear of looking at our messages because we knew something was gone awry.
Like, it was just, and it
everything
wouldn't
was
stop. Like,
gone awry.
but I think what was really cool is that we laid a framework for ourselves in all those
Yeah.
months so that like we truly could like no weapon fashioned against us
No,
would prosper.
no.
And we were still managed to like launch this podcast. Guys, like
Solution-oriented
in the
mindset.
weeks like leading up
And
after
pivot.
8 months of great work and we were in the weeks leading up to the podcast, the whole thing was threatened. Like
Yes.
threatened bad. Like
Yes.
real
Like,
fucking bad.
we may not
Real,
have been
real, real
sitting
bad.
here, you know.
Yeah.
like,
And
it was
it's
bad.
happened again, but we've been
We
able to have that
pivot.
angle.
I think pivoting has been like our superpower.
Yeah.
Like it really has been our superpower. Being able to be like, okay, this has gone wrong. How do we fix it? How do we move forward? Like I feel like you constantly have to be in that mindset, and it's like you can't really sit and like dwell on things. There were times where I wanted to sit and curse out people,
Right.
but that'd be a waste of my energy because I wouldn't be getting to the solution fast enough.
Right.
Because I've just wasted my time cursing people out. So that has definitely taught me a lesson.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I have learned so much about people skills, relationship building,
Yeah.
like managing expectations, being able to think quick,
Yep.
Yeah.
problem solve, like, and all of that is like crucial in like making sure that you're not really being miserable. Because at the end of the day, we just want to put out good content that speaks to our mission. And if that is my North Star, that is my guiding light.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if we can do that at a bi-weekly schedule,
A bi-weekly-ish.
ish schedule,
For now.
and
Which also is like, it's better just to do that than to not at all, you know?
you know,
Right.
yeah.
Knowing when to say, let me just do the imperfect thing. And also knowing when to wait, right? But also knowing when to be like, it's better to just, like,
Yeah.
how much of this is real standards or my standards that I've created?
Yeah. I
And
feel
how
like
much-
we've been
yeah.
working for so long, and we've been training for so long, training our brains and training our personhoods that it feels like we've lived lives, plural.
Yeah.
But actually, we're all really very young, and we're all really very early in our careers.
Yeah.
course.
And this is still very much the start. Like, this is the start of this podcast. This is the start of you starting an endeavor for yourself. And I feel like we've all watched you grow. We watched you grow as a leader. And that it takes that inner work, which you talk about a lot on the pod, but we also get to see in practice in front of the camera and behind it, to accept those things internally, to accept critiques from other people, to accept like, okay, maybe I can do this, I can't do this, to accept like, okay, maybe this isn't going my exact way, and I'm so used to having control over everything that like I need it to go that way. No, maybe not. Maybe I have to pull back and let go because that's not actually what's important right now. What's important is your North Star.
Yeah.
I feel like we've watched that framing, and that's what's kept it going.
And also, like, to your point, we've learned a lot and we've had a lot of experience, and we also learned what not to take with us. Like, we don't operate this like corporate. Like sometimes I'm depressed and I actually tell you that's why I can't come, you know? Like, we don't have to not be full people.
Right.
We all miss meetings all the time. Like, the meeting is 10 minutes in and we're just not having it. You can all feel it. We're like, guys, let's just move it. Like, you know, we're exhausted. Like, you know, that I think is also what makes things not miserable. Is it makes things keep going. Like, we're graceful with each other.
Yeah.
And I think why not? Because it won't happen anywhere else.
what do we want to tell the girls about pursuing this? Or pursuing their creativity, starting their endeavors, daring to take risks?
Oh, that's a great question, Ismatou Bah. I think honestly that, again, kind of referencing what I said earlier, you kind of just need to decide what you want for yourself and do that, right? Like, I think that I kind of came to that realization in high school where, yes, I came in wanting to do theater and I did that, but, you know, as you can tell, that didn't really end up where I wanted it to go. But we pivoted. And I didn't know this at the time, but I learned very early on when I was starting to get tired of like the theater scene at my school that you can manage a sport. And I walked right up to my like favorite English teacher who coached boys lacrosse, and I was like, hey, like, do you need a manager? And he was like, okay. And I then started managing the JV boys lacrosse team, which then
Icon. By the
yeah,
way.
which
This
is so
very- it was
random.
very
I know
iconic of you,
it's so
and it shook
random.
all of our worlds.
It did.
Yeah, and that
World's
was
still shaking.
Like a little bit.
World stop.
But it was kind of like the pivot for me, because then going into my junior year, someone gave a chapel talk, which were like these things at my school where seniors or teachers or whatever would talk about something that's basically a fable of their life and end with some sort of lesson, right? And one in particular really stood out to me, and it was someone talking about 10 seconds of insane courage. And that has stuck with me to this day. They basically talked about how having 10 seconds of insane courage did so much for them, and at the end posed a question. Now you've heard what 10 seconds of insane courage has done for me. What can it do for you? And that shook my world, blew my mind, everything. And prior to that, my friends and I have been joking like, oh, Sam, like, why don't you manage the boys basketball team or whatever? And it was a reach. It was a joke, because I don't think they had like a girl manager before. They already had one for like 4 years already. And they were a really good team, you know? And after listening to that chapel talk, I was like, okay, like, why can't I manage the varsity boys basketball team? So that day at seated lunch, I walked right up to the head coach and I was like, hey, do you need a manager? And he's like, oh, you like basketball? And I was like, sure. I didn't know shit about basketball besides there's a ball, there's a net, the ball goes in the net. And he's like, oh, well, I need to check with my current manager, but I'll let you know, whatever. And comes back, lets me know I got the job. 2 weeks into the
Wait,
job.
his current manager, did you take her job?
Well, it was a him. It was a he. And, well, we were both doing it. I was just his, like, associate manager type vibe. And then 2 weeks into the season, mind you, I don't know shit about anything. I'm, like, laying out these, like, things for drills. I'm like, is this how you do this? Is this how you fill up the water? Like, I don't fucking know. 2 weeks in, he quit. And by the end of that season, well, right after that, I became the head manager. And by the end of the season, I got a varsity letter for managing boys basketball. And senior year, the coach asked me, do you like this? Like, do you want to do this in college? And I was like, okay, sure. And I ended up getting into Tufts, where he actually was an associate coach for, and immediately click clack, sent an email to the current head coach at Tufts asking if I can be the manager. And he was like, of course. And so I ended up continuing to manage basketball for the next 4 years. And that was just one of the many things that allowed me to be creative and like do all these other things that kind of solidified me and who I am and who I wanted to be in college, and having that experience of literally like people doubting me and just like kind of grinding and having to come up in high school and learning how to navigate these spaces and these people allowed me to have a lot easier time in college when it comes to that. And I guess that's all to say that my advice is 10 seconds of insane courage. What can it do for you?
That's mad cute.
That was really
I
cute.
have that written on a sticky note on my mirror. Like, inspired.
Yeah.
It's impactful.
It is.
Yeah, that and don't panic, adjust, which we know well. We know very well on
Which
this
is
podcast.
tough because in JDs, in job descriptions, when they're like, you know, be flexible with change or like flexible, like adaptable, like usually that's just like a whistle blow for like, this is going to be a toxic environment. But you actually do need to be flexible to adaptability and change. Like, it actually is the most important thing, I think.
Don't panic, adjust.
Don't panic, adjust. Yeah. And just trust your people. Like, I feel like when Sam and I would wake up to just the worst, least favorable news, the worst case scenario over and over and over again, I feel like the one thing was that, like, I never thought we weren't going to get through it. Like, that was the thing. I never thought we weren't going to figure it out. Every other emotion, maybe. But I never thought, like, this is going to throw us. This is going to ruin everything. It was just like, all right, how are we going to fix this now?
Exactly.
But having that security, that wasn't security in, I was going to say just me, but not even in me. It's in Sam. Like, it's in knowing that, like, together,
each other.
we can do this. And then also as a group of 4, we can do this. Like, when also me and Sam, because, you know, we try to keep the producer work stream as, but sometimes we have to bring in the girls.
Yeah,
We need your thoughts. We need your help.
We need to
escalate. We need to, so
Heavy on the
that's,
flags.
I feel that a lot.
I feel,
Real.
yeah.
I was going to just tack onto Sam's because I feel like 10 seconds of courage really is like I think that the environments we were in academically, like, you know, no one was respecting us. No one was seeing our greatness. Like, the only place I ever struggled socially in my entire 26 years on this earth was my 4 years in boarding school. Everywhere else in my life, that came easy to me. Every job I've ever had, every space I've ever gone, every party I've ever been to, that is what I do. That's my thing. So the common denominator was them and not me. Huh? That's my party trick, is being fun. And just chatting. Like, I love it. I'm an Aries. I'm an extrovert. That was challenged and questioned for the first time there. And instead of taking the bait that this was a reflection of me, like, I had to have the audacity to be like, no, I think it's all of you, actually.
Right.
All 599 of you are wrong, and I'm right.
You don't
Which
get
is
the vision.
delusional, but
No, but that's being black
but they didn't
at
get the
boarding
vision.
school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we
That's
saw
being
the
black at
effect of
boarding
people that didn't do that, and it really can eat you up if you try to see yourself through the eyes of people that don't.
Right, because they project onto you the ways in which they think that you should be, that you should act. So if you come in, no matter how hard you may try to like be social, be yourself and whatever, they don't give a fuck about that. Like they will literally look at you and be like, oh, you're a loser because you're black and this and that and third. And you need to have the onus on yourself to be like, no, I'm not. And
which is insane.
prove it to yourself.
You were 15 and like it's really
not even to them. You need to prove it to yourself.
And sometimes it doesn't happen there, but like I think I had a conversation once with a friend who made this joke like, I made a vain comment about how I'm hot, because I am. And he made a comment that kind of implied like, oh, you must have like always been like this type vibe. And I was like, I almost started laughing. Like, are you insane? Like, my full-time job for years was to tell myself I wasn't ugly. Like, I've had to build this shit up from scratch. And that's why I don't care. Like, I don't care about being very, very like real about finally loving myself in that sense. Because it was like, that was a choice, baby. Like, no one ever handed this shit to me. Right. And no one told me. I had to do it myself.
I was always telling you guys, like, my therapist, because I was like, oh, like I would always speak about having an ego as like a bad thing. And my therapist was like, I mean, you're a black girl. You should have a little bit of ego. You need a little bit of ego to survive this world. You gotta have a little bit of ego.
Exactly.
And I
was
was like,
about being selfish.
Yeah.
That's my crusade in life.
Yeah.
I tell everybody who I'm around, because again, youngest child, like I am true to this. And I feel like it's my gift to the oldest siblings. It's my gift to who I come across to let them know that it's okay to care about self. It's okay. And it's actually necessary. Like, let's not overcorrect and people please. Yeah. And you see that far too often.
And in that, I think, like, to your point as well, too, like, I think vanity, like, is a black queer practice. Like, I feel very strongly about this. Like, it is very necessary. And the person I was talking to was a white man. And, like, I'm like, you don't understand. Everywhere you've gone, everyone thinks you're cute. So it's cute for you to be timid and meek about that. Yeah, shut the fuck up and pipe down. You're a handsome white man. Everyone knows that. You'll always get that. Like, you're always treated that way when you walk into a room. Like, obviously. But, like, yeah, as black women, as a black gay man, like, our self-worth is told to be in the toilet. All the examples we get are that we're worthless. Like, that is a constant messaging. Yeah. And it is very, very necessary to perform vanity, especially when you don't really feel it, because you can't do any of the things we're saying, right? Dive into a creative practice and apply it to that if you also don't feel right and aligned and see yourself as that bitch.
Yeah.
Not from a place of insecurity, but genuinely feeling that without anyone like validating it.
Yeah. I feel like an ultimate takeaway for me, and if for anybody watching this, is you actually just have to have audacity. And like for me, it literally, as you guys know, my high school years were tumultuous. And if there's anything that I got away from that institution is vengeance. As a Aries, I dream of vengeance. I dream of vengeance. And I just, seeing all these white kids just do whatever the fuck that they want to do, just because they fucking can and because they're rich, I was like, I can too. Yeah. Like, unfortunately, like, I was raised by the mom who told me that there's nothing that I can't touch and turn to gold. Like, I was raised by the mom that said, everyone's jealous of you and you are better than everybody. I was raised by the mom who said, there is nothing that someone can have that you can't have. And I just remember looking at all these dumb white kids and saying, I too will do whatever the fuck that I want because I fucking can. And just simply because I want to. And that audacity is truly what drives me to do anything, honestly. Like, I couldn't have done this podcast. I couldn't have gotten the job that I have. I couldn't have moved out. I literally couldn't think up half the shit. Like I even literally speak in future tense like I'm already a millionaire because I'm that delusional. And honestly, another thing too that I want to also add to this, truly invest in your friends because like that's the only way you can level up. Like this idea that like you're going to meet someone who's going to pull you up is actually so false. Like I can't even stress it enough. Like a lot of people are always just like, oh, you're rubbing shoulders with this person and this person.
They don't give a fuck about you.
And like, no. People are like, oh, you're in rooms with this person, you're partying with this person. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
It is the niggas that you literally grinded with from the fucking bottom. Yeah. It's the niggas who are in this room with me who are going to eat with me. Like, that's it.
And
like,
even your own niggas that are doing things individually, you won't just be in it. You have to put yourself in it, right? Like, your friend might pop off. They're not going to start telling you every week. What do you think this is? They did this for them. Find your way in so you're a part of that. Like, yeah.
And, like, that I cannot stress enough. Like, and if you don't think you got friends that are like doing cool shit, go get some new friends.
Put yourself in new spaces,
put yourself
baby.
in the spaces you want.
The definition of insanity is doing
That's
the same thing
and
over
that's
and
the
over
sheepishness
again and expecting a different
I reject
result.
again. That like it's vulnerable to be like, I want to hang out with these types of people, so go hang out with them.
Exactly.
They're not going to go
Find
find
them.
you. I want to be, and people don't realize like, yeah, bitch, I'm cool because I chose it. I wanted to be like, you know, I wanted to be places that made me feel that way and be with people that made me feel that way. I'm not afraid to say that. Like, I sought that out. Like,
I feel like a lot of people like will look at me and I'm like quieter.
She's the sane one.
I don't know about sane, guys. I don't know about all that.
maybe just in comparison to I don't know if anyone's ever really
I don't know about sane, clearly, but like I think at the end of the day, like especially in high school and like, you know, people would have their own opinions about me and things and whatnot, and you're entitled to. But at the end of the day, I know me and I knew what I was going to be, and I kind of had to make that happen for myself. And I think everyone needs to do that.
catch up.
You can't let the chatter, the chit chat, the chat get to you. You need to do things for yourself, you know, because you want to. And if you can like visualize, if you can see it, you can do it.
Yeah.
One other thing I do think we need to touch on is the investment part that you said, because part of this podcast was you investing money that you have not seen back yet. That is net loss, right? You had to be okay with that too.
Yeah.
And that investment came from us in the form of time. Like we have been unemployed for all of us for over a year to about a year.
A minute.
It is maddening to be spending almost your whole day doing a job where you don't have a job and you're not getting paid for that job. Like it can sometimes feel crazy. Like you sometimes have to really, but it's an investment and you have to be comfortable with that investment. And you can't just be comfortable with the investment because we might make $1 million. Obviously we're thinking about it that way. At the same time, we're like, we're going to be rich and famous. At the same time, it also needs to be okay that you just invested it. Even if this thing doesn't necessarily directly create that,
it's a better
that
use of
this
your
investment
time.
is just an investment regardless. It's going to pay off because whatever you do next will benefit from this.
Yeah.
Whatever eventually recoups your investment is built off of this.
You take the learnings from this to go wherever you go in the
Yeah.
future. Like it's a better use of your time always. I feel like the choice is always to invest in yourself and invest in the people around you who have the drive and you notice that drive that you have in yourself.
And that qualitative return is, people don't talk about that. Like you might not get the numbers back, but like those soft skills,
But again, it's
that confidence.
It's substance.
It's
And
substance.
substance is so lacking in the corporate space. I think that was one of the moments where I really, really, really was disillusioned with the whole concept of like a 9 to 5 for the rest of my life. And I would like a 9 to 5. I'm saying that now.
Period.
Please.
Moon.
But
Please give me one.
+1.
like I'm not lying.
Dead ass.
But
I want to work.
the like
As Kim K once said,
nobody wants to
I'm
work
not
anymore.
that.
I'm
work
not that.
anymore.
No, I will work.
no.
I promise, and work hard. But but it's
fall in line.
not. You see the exchange. You literally see people selling their souls, and it's not even selling your souls for big bucks. Even selling your souls for a regular check that most Americans have to do in order to get by in life and feed their families and X, Y, and Z. That is time that you're not able to invest in something that's actually growing you as a person, especially if your career, your job, your situation is a situation that is stagnant, is holding you back, is not fruitful in any other way besides monetarily. Whether it's like a hobby, a side project of this or that, investing in yourself, your time is what you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as eldest daughter, like the implications for you investing in yourself also means like not
Very
spending that
different.
money on every single one of your family members, which is the expectation of your check. Your check is looked at as they own it.
Yeah.
And all of the things you were saying in past episodes that we've shot that maybe have come out, I don't know. But what you said about those sacrifices and changing your mindset also is required. Like, there's not enough money anymore. I can't give it all to my siblings or to my mom or to, I have to give it to myself.
It's a weird place to be. It's a semi-luxury in a way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yes, I have the income, but like, there's also so many things that money could have been helpful for. You know what I mean? And so I think for me, it was like, I'm always gonna regret if my 20s came and went and I didn't do this one thing I wanted to do this one time. Like, I would always look back and be like, oh, what would it have been like if I started a podcast? And, you know, I just know that I'm the type of person, if I saw someone who did exactly what I wanted to do, I would be like, damn, like, that could have been me.
It would eat
That
at
could,
you.
yeah,
And when
exactly.
you think about the money in that grand scheme of things, like, that's not that much money. That money
Exactly.
comes and goes. Like,
Exactly. And it's like, for me, like, even if, like, I'm totally fine with honor terms being just this. You know what I mean? Like, if this is the extent of what it
This is
comes
something to
to,
be proud of.
like, this is still
Yeah.
something, exactly.
Yeah, we
Like,
still
You did
done
this
that.
is still something that I'm extremely proud of because I had an idea and I executed it. I've gone through so many trials and tribulations. I've ideated an idea. I've made it something. I've created a community. I've created a collective of like specific people that I want to, like, you know, curate. And you know, a lot of people say, oh, like, too many niggas have a podcast. Like, too many niggas like picked up
Everybody
a mic and
grabbing a
started a mic.
mic.
Everybody grabbing a mic. Let me tell you, for free. This shit is hard work to actually create something of substance and quality.
and that's why we did it, because too many niggas are not doing that. They're just getting mics. Yes, that's
Yeah,
why.
exactly.
That's why we were like,
And
let's talk.
I saw somebody
Let's
who
chat.
actually made a comment of like, they should raise the prices of mics, which, by the way, are already super expensive. And even if they did, I would still be able to afford it.
Oh.
And secondly,
Clock it, mama.
I can't stress enough that, like I said, like, on our terms is literally just a dream becoming a reality. Like, I think this is like cool as fuck that we've been able to create this just off of sheer, just like wanting to do things. I literally, for the longest, thought I was like, I didn't like, when I was in my corporate job, I will say that for the longest I felt like, wow, I'm not learning anything. Like, I'm not really doing anything. I feel like a cog in the machine. Like,
Right.
I would tell my friends all the time, like, I don't really have much, because they're really like, oh, you don't really talk about work. I'm like, there's not really much to talk about. Like, it's sales. And starting this podcast has really shown me that I have actually picked up skills from this job, and like from all of our experiences, I feel like have been extremely instrumental into making this podcast a success. Whether it's been pitching, whether it's been creating these decks, whether it's been cold emailing, or like literally how to professionally like do outreach, like, it's all been instrumental into moving this podcast forward. People literally just us appearing and us showing up button up in certain places have literally just impressed certain people to the fact that they even want to open doors for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That alone in itself. And so it's like, I am so thankful for a lot of even though I hated boarding school, well, forever, I like a lot of these institutions I have qualms with. I think they have been so formative in giving us the audacity and giving us the space and giving us a lot of soft skills to create this. And on our terms is literally a physical representation of everything that has led us up to this point. And so
I feel like it's our duty to disseminate that information.
Exactly.
There is no point in us gatekeeping this.
Exactly.
There is no point.
Because you
in
can
us
do it
holding
too.
Our cards close to our chest and saying that we got away with a $50,000 education at this education and you must struggle as well. There's no point in that.
And also, there's no glorifying of the trauma we experience. Like, our way of turning those lemons into lemonade is in spite of the trauma. It's not because of it. Like, it's because we had community with us to then turn those things into, because all of those experiences we had could have broken us and could have turned into really, really negative things. And we've seen that happen to people. And my heart goes out to all of them because we were in it. But then we leaned on each other to take those and turn those lemons into lemonade instead of lemon juice in your eye.
Community plus drive.
Yeah.
no,
That was good.
that was really good.
The
I thought that was
juice
too
in your
good.
eyes.
Okay.
No, I liked it. I liked it.
Yeah. Let me get a publishing deal.
Ooh.
Guys, I feel like we are advised out. Like we gave it all
Yeah.
out.
No,
we
I
gave
think so.
we gave
I have
all the
nothing
tea.
left for y'all.
Yeah.
Nip slip. Let's go. Guys,
Getting ahead.
get me off this
No,
camera.
It's getting to that point. Guys, that's all. We told you, we gave you the secret sauce. We told you how we did it. I am so thankful that you guys came on. Well, I'm so glad that this is the team that has made On Our Terms happen. And I'm so glad that you guys are actually even getting to meet the brains and the beauty behind it. A lot of people come up to me all the time and say, wow, your podcast is so intentional. Your topics are so intentional. Da, 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 da. Well, there is 4 big ass brains being put together to create every aspect
Real
and
big.
part of this podcast.
Real
And so
And honestly, it's a TV show. Let's be serious. This ain't no podcast. I keep saying podcast and I show it to people and they're like, that's a TV show with an hour and a half long episodes.
I'm screaming. Full feature-length films.
thank you guys tuning into our TV show. And if you like what you saw, make sure you follow us at On Our Terms Pod. And you can follow me, your host, at UTomsy. And we can find you at...
I'm the Esther C, the .Esther.C.
And...
Simula with 2 U's and 3 A's.
And...
What.son, WHAT.SON, and at Young Black Brooklyn.
We love you guys so much. And we'll catch you guys next time. Bye, guys.